So to start with, since we are talking about the SOC, some brief about that. SOC means Security Operations Center. I guess everyone might have heard about this, right? Can you guys tell me where does SOC stands? Does it stand in the red team or the blue team? Blue team means defensive side, whereas when we talk about the red team, it is offensive, right? Correct. Offensive isn't from hackers' perspective. So SOC, yes, SOC when we talk about it, it's a Security Operations Center, right? So what it does when you talk about SOC, actually, it's more of a centralized business unit, okay, where all the activities are monitored. We can say they are detected, analyzed, and responded. So it's a centralized team, like your people, your processes, your technology. We call it PPT in short. People, process, or processes, and technology, basically, right? So it's a centralized team where people, process, technology, they all together, we can say, using them. We monitor, we detect, we analyze, and respond to cybersecurity threats in the real time. Okay, so it acts as a nerve center for cybersecurity operations. Core goal to protect organization information system, data, and networks. See, the thing is, why do you think we need SOC? What do you think? If someone asks you, why do we need SOC? We also always have to answer this question, right? Why? So, what would be your response for that? Why SOC? First line defense, protecting your system from attack. Okay. See, the point is, what I would say, like these are very good points, valid points, but what we can do, we can put them into more good terms and technical terms. Like firewalls, okay, you have mentioned, but it's like a tool which can be used over there. Monitor and prevent the threats, nice, good one. See, why SOC is needed, if you think about it, couple of pointers, if you say, how we can start with it or how we can, explain such things would be with such terms. First of all, you know, convey what is happening around us, what's the threat. So basically we can put a pointer like rising cyber threats are there, because danger is there, that's why security is required, right? Quite obvious. So many organizations are there, many individuals are also there, those who face ransomware attack, phishing, right? Insider threats are there, cloud attacks are there, many more. So attackers do not work 9 to 5, right? They can strike anytime, correct? They can attack on your organization at 2 a.m. as well. They won't go for 9 to 5 only the fixed time. So with the help of SOC, what do we have? We have a 24/7 monitoring, correct? Continuous monitoring, right? Also, we have centralized defense. When I say centralized, right, that's a very important point. The centralized defense or a centralized security control. What do you guys think what this centralized means from your perspective? See, the point is, do you agree with the fact that every device or every assets will create the logs for us? Gusai, good one. Yeah. Okay. But what here centralized means, that was the question. Like that's why I'm asking it. Central team of facility that monitors, detects, and responds to security incidents across the entire organization. Yes. Perfect. See, do you agree this? That's why I'm asking this question. Do you agree that your router creates some logs? Logs means any recorded activity. For example, when you make a call, your calls are logged, right? We see the call logs, to whom we called, at what time, what date, what was the duration, etc., etc. Correct. Similarly, do you agree with that your router also creates some logs? Your firewall also creates some logs. Your database, websites, your systems, at what time you logged in, at what time you logged out, what file was deleted, everything. Do you agree with that? The logs are created. Absolutely. The thing is, the firewall can be monitored by any admin individually as well. Database can also be monitored individually. Web application can be also monitored individually. But the point is, if you monitor individually, that will be having a lack of communication. There will be a lot of gaps. We won't know any correlation, any connectivity between these three if we monitor them individually, and it's very time taking. When I say centralize, what it means, all these things are being monitored in one place, which gives us a better visibility, better communication, better transparency, and we can detect things more easily. For example, I love to give this example. Let's suppose you're in a shopping mall, right? In a mall, three floors are there: third floor, second floor, first floor. Every floor has a camera, CCTV camera. Now, every floor has a security guard. Okay, tell me which option is better. Okay, is this option good that each floor we have one room, security room, in which there's a security guard monitoring the floor in the television? The footage which is created by CCTV is monitoring over there. Is this a good option, or having a common security room where we have multiple screen or a very big screen where those CCTV footage are being displayed, and we have, let's suppose, two or three security guards over here? Is this option good or second option good? Tell me. First of all, what is happening? All these three CCTV cameras footage are being sent into one place, correct? Can we say it is a centralized one? First of all, centralized, right? Otherwise, yes, ease of correlation, exactly. Hmm. Good, Sai, okay, nice. See, the point is, if let's suppose a thief was there on the third floor, this security guard know that there is a thief. But do these people know about it? No, they do not know the thief, like how the thief looks like, right? And thief have a good possibility of escaping that shopping mall. But if there was a centralized one, like one common security room, here every guard knows who's the thief, and they can catch that and identify that thief easily. Agree with this? Yeah. Better visibility, better monitoring, remediation, detection, identification is better over here, and especially communication as well. Along with that, make sense? So with SOC, everything is collected into one command center. Like your firewall logs, endpoint alerts, cloud logs, all are monitored in one dashboard. And with the help of this, we also have a faster detection, as I told you. Since it's centralized, sorry, fourth pointer. Since it's centralized, then we have faster detection. Obviously, we'll be able to spot it more quickly and faster response. Here in our technical terminology, we have these two terms. We call it as MTTD, MTTR. Like, do you guys have heard about KPI? Have you heard about KPI? Key Performance Indicator? Yeah, like during the promotion time, employees have to show the KPI, right, to their manager. Why do they deserve good promotion? Correct. So for our security also, for our SOC also, KPIs are would be like this MTTD and MTTR. MTTD means mean time to detect, and MTTR means mean time to respond. That means how fast. MTTD means mean time to detect, how fast you spot a threat, whereas MTTR would be how fast you contain it, respond, like how fast you contain it, stop it. So SOC drastically reduces both. and minimize the damage as well. So it helps us for faster detection response in short. And very importantly as well, if you go with the fifth option, compliance and risk management is better for that purpose as well. Compliance, which are like a requirement, and risk management, handling the risk as well. So we have a lot of regulation like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI-DSS. They require logging, monitoring, and reporting. So SOC makes sure audit readiness is there, and it helps us to reduce the penalties as well. And sixth important one, business continuity. So I would put these quick pointers for this kind of a question. So you know, because whenever any incident occurs, whenever cyber incident occurs, they can stop the operation, right? Like ransomware, uh, it shut down. It has happened in the past as well. It shut it down the hospitals, or it can shut down the hospital or airline or any kind of a services as well. So SOC makes sure incidents are contained, they are catched and quarantined and contained quickly, so that we can keep our business running. Okay, so that's what SOC does, and this is why SOC is a requirement. Not a requirement, I would say it's a necessity now. Now, key functions of SOC, as we discussed about it, monitoring 24/7 observation of systems and logs, absolutely right, right, and detection, identify suspicious or malicious activities as well. Okay, perfect. Analysis, investigate alerts and incidents. Response, contain, mitigate, and recover from attacks, and reporting, provide insights to improve defenses. Yes. So monitoring is there. Yes. See, SOC is like it works like a hospital's emergency department. It's always open, always ready. So it is having a continuous monitoring, as we discussed, 24/7 watch over the systems, logs, net and networks activity. Right. Detection is there. It spots anything unusual, maybe like a login attempt at 3 a.m. or any malware communicating with the website. It is helpful for the analysis purpose, investigate alerts and incidents, right? So it investigate alerts to confirm if it's a real threat or just a false alarm. Maybe it's like a false alarm. It was not really a threat. It could be there. So it helps us to analyze that. Response, importantly, to take quick actions because we cannot stop our business, right? So it helps us to take quick actions like to remediate, recover from the attacks as well, like blocking an IP, resetting a password if it feels like it is compromised like that. Reporting, provide insights to improve defenses. Share, reporting is like you're sharing the lesson which you have learned from the entire process. Whenever any incident has occurred, how you detected it, what was the root cause of that incident, how attacker took an advantage, how we detected it, how we mitigated it. So we create a report out of that. It's like a lesson learned. So the organization keeps improving their defenses and make sure such things never happen again in the future. Right? So if someone asks you what are the main functions of a SOC, you can structure your answers like continuous monitoring is there to ensure there is no blind spots, better threat detection to identify any suspicious activity early. It is useful for incident analysis to validate and prioritize the alerts. Helpful for incident response, where we perform the containment, eradication, recovery, and for reporting and feedback loop, which help us to improve the policies, the rules, and the awareness. Right. So, in case if there is a follow-up question in the interview that which function is most important out of these, right? Monitoring, detection, and respond would be yes. Good one, correct. Detection and response. Although, see, I'm not saying all others are not important. All functions are critical over here, but detection response are like I would say they are considered like a heart of SOC, right? So I would also say detection and response. Maybe yeah, that's why I said all functions are critical, absolutely, but just most important in case if it does ask, if we have to answer in this way. Because the point is, if you detect it early, it will help us to reduce the dwell time. Dwell time as in the amount of time attackers remains in your network or in your environment without being detected. So the longer they are, obviously they will see all the data of yours, correct? So if there is an attacker in your environment for about 2 years, that means 2 years of data is lost, correct? They are winning over there. So early detection obviously is very important, and fast response. Fast response is also important to reduce its impact or reduce the damage, correct? So I'll just give an example to explain all these functionalities. Let's suppose if there is any retail company and it's a retail company is there during Black Friday sales. Yeah. Okay. So here what happens? Monitoring is done. Okay. In monitoring, what happens? Let's suppose, not suppose, like it's like we are thinking about in that perspective. Imagine there's a retail company during a Black Friday sales. So you do the monitoring. In monitoring, you realize that SOC sees a spike in failed payment transaction. Okay. Spike in failed payment transactions. So detection would be like we'll be raising an alert. An alert is flagged basically. Okay. Alert flags there's a possible credential stuffing. Credential stuffing means trying to crack a password. So for example, if I might have hacked Facebook, let's suppose if I have hacked Facebook, I stole the data from there. In that, obviously, your username and password and email ID would be there. So I'm using the same thing in different platforms now, in Instagram, you know, in Canva, and different other platforms. That is what credential stuffing is. So detection says that an alert flags possible credential stuffing from thousands of stolen accounts. Then we do the analysis for the same. In the analysis part, so analysts they verify these logins are coming from unusual geographies or locations and match the leaked credentials as well. As per that, the response will be there. You know, we'll do what? We'll block the suspicious IP ranges. We'll force the password resets, and we alert the customers as well that okay, change your account password. Something suspicious has happened, and then finally we go for the reporting part. Right? In reporting, SOC documents that the attack method which was used. It updates the detection rules for the better detection and train the staff to handle similar cases in future. Okay. Couple of responsibilities for L1, L2, and L3 other tier other different tiers. L1 is their tier one or tier one L1 analyst is for monitoring and initial triage. First lines of defense, SOC front desk, we can say kind of a thing. The responsibility is for like 24/7 monitoring of SIM, dashboard, and alerts. Help us to acknowledge, filter, and prioritize the alerts. It helps us to remove false positive. Those who do not know about this, kindly give it a read to that. True positive, true negative, false positive, false negative. Very important key terms used in SOC. Okay. So they acknowledge and filter and prioritize the alerts. Escalate any suspicious incident to L2. Escalation is also there. So triage is part of that. Triage means here we verify and validate that it's really an incident. Then we classify what kind of an incident it is, and then we prioritize that incident, high, medium, low in that way. And as per that, it is, and as per that, it will be escalating it to L1 will be escalated to the tier 2 or L2 analyst. Okay. So they perform the basic task like blocking an IP address, disabling any compromised user account like that. So for example, if your SIM solution, which is the main thing of SOC, if SIM solution shows 100 failed logins, so L1 check if it's a user who forgot the password or is it a password based attack done by someone. Okay. So if asked what's the daily routine of an L1 analyst, say monitor alerts, triage events, document incidents, and escalate confirmed threats to L2 or tier 2. And when we talk about tier 2, L2 analysts, they are for deep analysis and incident handling. Like they are the detective or SOC, we can say. They investigate the incidents which are escalated by L1. They correlate, make a link between the data from multiple sources like firewalls, EDR, threat intelligence feeds, like, and then perform the malware analysis and handle the containment and eradication, like isolating an infected host, resetting the compromised accounts, and they also communicate with IT or security teams for remediation. Right. So, for example, if any L1 escalate a phishing email case to L2, so they will check for email headers, attachments, links, investigate if further or any other employees have clicked on it or not, and block the domain from which that email is coming from, and report the indicator of compromise as well, what has been identified. So, if asked what skills should an L2 have, so you can answer like knowledge of SIM solutions fine tuning, log correlation, packet analysis using Wireshark, you can say malware analysis a bit, and hands-on with incident response tools like EDR as well. And tier 3 is for threat hunting, forensics, malware analysis, kind of SMEs as well. Incident responder, we can talk about the special forces of SOC. So the responsibilities will be including doing threat hunting, proactive threat hunting, like looking for any hidden threats which are not caught by the SIM solutions. SIM as in SIEM. It's a main part of your, SOC. Perform deep forensics on endpoints, servers, and memory dumps. Helpful for reverse, like they'll be performing reverse engineering of malware and advanced persistent threats as well, APTs. They tune, refine the detection rules, and create the playbooks for L1 and L2 so that they can follow the steps whenever an incident happens. So, tuning the detection rules and work closely with threat intelligence and the red teams as well. Right. So, for example, if an organization they suspects an insider threat, so L3 will hunt any unusual data transfers, perform the forensic investigation on logs, USB usage, and endpoints artifacts as well, and help us to provide the executive level incident reports also. So, if someone asks you how is L3 different from L2, so L2 reacts to incidents, but L3 proactively hunts for hidden threats and deals with the complex or high severity cases which are requiring the forensics and your malware analysis as well. Okay, before that, one slide. Sorry about access and authentication scenarios. This is just to give an idea about that as well. Um, access or authentication scenarios. When you're talking about access means um, access controls. Here we are talking about in terms of security. These are also important concept. Um, to be known, like everyone should not get the all access. When you talk about access controls, we have a term like we have basically subject and object. Subject is the one who is making the request to access the resources, and object are those resources to which the requests are made. In between this, to manage this flow, this control, we have access controls in between. See, subject could be anyone, any user, any system, anything like that. So we cannot just give the access to it to anyone for everything. Like a normal person should not be able to access military documents, right? Not allowed. Access controls are there, obviously. You have your badges. If I'm not belonging to your company, I cannot enter your company because I do not have a badge to enter. The same concept I'm talking about. These are access controls, part of it, access management. So here, access controls are there. Like normal user cannot have access to admin accounts, right? So there's a principle when you talk about from terms of access scenarios and access control, least privilege principle. And anyone who can tell me what is least privilege principle? So least privilege principle means giving limited amount of access, only that much amount of access so that a person or a system or any subject can do their day-to-day activity. That's it. Nothing apart from that. right? Minimum access so that they can perform their day-to-day task, day-to-day activity. That's what least privilege principle is there. So next, we have different models also. So we have triple A concept basically over there. One A means authentication, A means authorization, and third A means accountability. Authentication, authorization, and accountability. Authentication means you are proving what you claim to be. So if I'm telling Instagram that okay, this is SIEM, so I will enter my password to prove that I'm, what I'm claiming. Authorization means permissions. That's what authorization means. Permissions. Like whether you have read, write, execute permissions for this file or not, in that way. Setting up the permissions. Where least privilege principle can also be part of it, obviously. And accountability means logs only. Whatever the actions you have taken, they are getting logged and you are accountable for that. Okay. So here authentication is being showed, and especially the multi-factor authentication concept is mentioned over here. Anyone who can tell me what is multi-factor authentication? Perfect. So multi-factor authentication means using two or more authentication factors. If you talk about the authentication factors, what are the name of them? One is something you know, three primary ones we are talking about. Something you know, something you have, and last is something you are. Okay. Yes, I use authentication application. That's fine. See, when you're talking about something you know, what it means when you talk about something you know, it means it's like a learning factor for you, something which you have to memorize in order to implement. So, like your passwords, pattern, pin, these are all part of your something you know. Password, pattern, pin, yes, because you have to memorize it. When you talk about something you have, it means something which you have owned, like smart card, RSA token, even your car key can be part of it, or mobile phone where you get the OTP, it can be also part of this. What would be something you are? The biometrics, as in like your fingerprint, yes, retina scan, face recognition, like that. So point is, see, each one of them have their own weaknesses. Like individually, each one of them have their own weakness. If you talk about password, it can be guessed, it can be cracked. Someone can also crack a pin or password. If you talk about RSA card, token, smart card, ID card, they can be stolen. Someone can steal it. If you talk about biometric like fingerprint, someone can chop it and use it, right? Or someone can make a clone out of that, right? They can clone things as well and use it. So individually, each one of them have their own weaknesses. So that's why we have multi-factor authentication concept, that in case if one is compromised, still we have others to secure our account. So if attacker is able to guess our password or able to crack our password, the attacker will still not be able to enter into the account. Reason being, we have OTP set up over there, or RSA token set up over there, or biometric set up over there. So that's why these things are required in order to secure our account. Okay, perfect. Now we'll go with some situational scenario based questions. Suspicious login activity is the first one. Your SIM flags, SIM solution where all your centralized logs are, like all your logs are collected centralized and uh, you know displayed over there. Alerts are generated over here. So it's that kind of a dashboard, which it's like a heart of your SOC, the main thing over there, from where we perform the centralized monitoring and detection and everything. So a SIM flags multiple failed login attempts from a single IP address against the admin account, which is followed by a successful login. So multiple failed login attempt has been made. Let's suppose 10 failed login attempts. from a single IP from some single place against the admin account, followed by a successful login. First question is, how would you investigate this alert? What would be your pointers for this? Passing the payloads. What do you mean by passing the payloads? Not sure how to start. No, like the point is not starting it. Like it's like what all quick pointers you can put, what all things you will do or look out for. Can we say we have to acknowledge it and we'll try edge it? Acknowledge, as we told and discussed about this. Perfect. See, acknowledge and try edge would be there. Basically, we note the severity since it's an admin account and multiple failures has been done. How will you prioritize this thing? Will it be high, medium, or low? Which priority will you put this thing? Medium. It's an admin account, very important account. If an admin account is compromised, what will happen? Attackers have all the privileges, all the accessibility to everything. They can do whatever they want to do. Make sense? So it will be high, right? So acknowledgement try should be there. We check the login details as well. Check login details. When I'm saying check login details, what I meant is we look out for the time, the source IP from where this login attempt has been made, that IP, right? Its geolocation, right? Any fingerprint in case if that's being used, and then we verify the legitimacy as well. See, why am I verifying the legitimacy? What it means, it could be a false positive as well. So what we do over here, we contact with the admin because maybe it might be an admin only who was trying to access his own account and he forgot the password. That's why he made multiple login failure attempts, right? It could be the possibility. And MR, good one. I just take the answer. Good pointers, right? So, for example, if Guru Sai is there and Guru Sai is an admin just like the same thing which you see in your Windows laptop also, where it asks for the permission of an administrator. That's what an admin is. So let's suppose the Guru Sai is trying to, in his account, if you saw, he's an admin, and in his account you saw multiple login failure attempts and one successful attempt. So see, by looking at these logs, it looks like an attack. Someone has cracked the password. So obviously it will have high priority because it was an admin account. We have to look it on priority. So we check the login details, everything, and then we verify it. We verify because maybe it was Guru Sai only who was trying to access his own account, and maybe Guru Sai forgot the password due to which made multiple login failure attempts and one successful admin attempt. Now, will you call it an attack? Is it a threat? If it's the condition, if Guru Sai is the admin and Guru Sai's account only, we're getting failures attempts, right? So when we contact Guru Sai, we got to know it was Guru Sai only who was trying to access own account, but forgot the password. That's why I made multiple login failure attempts and one successful. So when we got that, we can confirm it was not an attack. It was a false positive. Correct? It was a false alarm because it was Guru Sai only who was trying to access his own account. So we contact the admin user to confirm if it was them or not. After that, we cross-check the IOCs in case if it's confirmed, obviously. Still, we'll cross-check the IOC. IOC means indicator of compromise, like IP address, domain name, URLs. So we check is the IP address on any threat intelligence or part of a block list or not, right? We check for any lateral movement as well. Lateral movement means from going one system, one account to another account like that. So we check for lateral movement. So after login, we check did this account access any unusual systems or not, any other systems or not, and we escalate if it's malicious. So what we'll do, we'll contain it first of all, as in we'll disable the account obviously, so that attacker won't be able to perform any other activity. We'll block the IP address, and then we further investigate deeper. Clear? Then what logs or tools would you check first? Interesting. So logs file in Linux or in Windows, since we are talking about login attempts, which log file should be accessed? What do you say? Security logs. Okay, in event IDs we have that in Windows. In Windows, if we talk about security events are there. In Windows, we have event viewer. Always remember the event IDs, they are very important. 4625 denotes login failure, and 4624 represents your login success. In Linux, we have the authentication log. Basically, we're talking about the authentication logs. The logs are stored in Linux at /var var /log /authentication dot log in Linux. Okay, this will be in Windows. We look out for the VPN remote access log to see if login was remote. We look out for the firewall also. Firewall logs, any traffic from this IP before maybe or after, right? You look out for your EDR endpoint detection response and or basically your antivirus logs also to detect any malware execution after login. So the tools which will be used for this one, for these logs, would be like your SIM solutions, like Splunk, QRadar, Sentinel for correlation. You look out for your threat intelligence feed as well to see any IOCs which has a record to check IP reputation basically. Right, and JIT's geo IP also for looking over the location to see if login came from any unusual country. So we look out for the geo IP lookup tools. And third is, how would you differentiate between a brute force attack and a legitimate user who forgot this password? This is interesting. Here you have to think like an analyst. How can you differentiate between a brute force attack and a legitimate? Very good, Datatya. Good pointer. If brute force attack was there, we can say hundreds of failed login attempts in seconds or minutes. Correct? Where if it was legitimate user, so it would be having few failed login attempts, like 2 or 3, which will be followed by the correct login. Right? Chances are in the brute force that attempts might be there against multiple accounts from same IP. From same IP into different accounts, attempts might be made for the brute force, right? Same IP address, multiple accounts being tried, right? But when you talk about legitimate user, for this, the source IP will match with the user's normal location or device location, correct? And here in brute force, we'll get the unusual geolocation, maybe any login from another country, but the user is from India and you're getting a login from another country, that kind of scenario. In the legitimate user confirm they forgot the password. That's it, right? You communicate with the user will tell you whether it was them or not. Clear? So in interview, you can use these kind of phrases also. Like the difference lies in volume, pattern, and context of attempts. Brute force is more systematic and abnormal, while a user mistake is random and minimal. Right? We in brute force, hundreds of login attempts will be made, but in the legitimate user one, it won't be hundreds of login attempts in 1 minute. Right? So if a brute force attacker tries 500 passwords in 1 minute, your SIM solution will raise the multiple failed login alerts. If a legitimate user mistype their password 3 times before remembering it, it might look normal to you. Okay. What about the second one? It's like impossible travel alert. The situation is there. For a hint, a user logs in from India at 9 a.m. and then from New York at 9:15. How would you verify if this is a false positive or a compromised account? Metadata will be checked. We check the login metadata. When I say metadata, nothing else. I'm talking about the IP address basically, from where this thing is being originated from, the internet service provider who's the one providing it, the device which is trying to access, so device details, right, like that, and which browser is being used as well. So through that, we can get this. If it's a legitimate user, so device details will be of your employee and it will be a false positive. A VPN or proxy part can be there. We check for it. The user, they might be using the corporate VPN or cloud proxy, making it look like they logged in from two locations. That can be one condition. Okay. So we need a user confirmation as well, differentiate whether it's a compromise or a false positive. So user confirmation will be there, quite obvious. We contact the user. Did you just log in? Like that. And you look out for the threat intelligence, like IP reputation, like that. Right. You see if the IP from New York is on any block list, or does it have a bad reputation or not. It has been part of any attack. Right? Because see, point is it could be a false positive if it is caused by a VPN or a proxy. But if metadata like your device, browser, geolocation is different, it's likely to be like an account compromised. Okay. Second is, what steps would you recommend to secure the account? What do you say? How can we secure the account? So over here, the steps which we can use over here in this part, force password reset, right? Also, we can revoke. We have to actually, if there's any active session, revoke it, close it, right? From a security perspective, what should we do? Should we enable anything? Like in case a password is compromised or feel like the password is in danger, MFA, right? Yes, good one. Any unusual data or something being happening over there, right? Any unusual data downloads, any privilege escalation. So if compromise is confirmed over here, we can isolate the account now, okay, and investigate any little movement. Okay, if confirmed, isolate the account. Okay, so over here the goal is to contain and stop the further misuse of the account while making sure that the user regains the secure access later, right? Third question is, what controls would prevent this in the future? Obviously, MFA, we have talked about that. Multi-factor authentication would be best choice over here, first of all, right? So we can also have impossible travel detection policies. which is already in use in Microsoft 365 and Okta. I guess someone mentioned that before. So they all auto block any suspicious logins. Right? Conditional access can also be provided, can be put. Conditional access means restrict the logins from any specific geographies or IPs, right? We can look out for the UEBA as in user entity behavior analysis. Sorry, user basically user behavior analytics we are talking about. So it detect any anomalous out of the pattern, in devices, time and access patterns basically. And best one will be security awareness. So the focus over here is on layered security. Prevention would be MFA, conditional access. Detection would be like impossible travel alerting, and user awareness is also right. So you can say in the interview, like first I would validate the login by checking IP, device, and VPN usage, so that we can rule out any false positive. If it is confirmed, or if it looks like suspicious, then I would reset the account password, revoke sessions, and enforce multi-factor authentication. For prevention, what we can do, I would recommend like enabling conditional access policies, impossible travel detection, and user behavior analytics. This makes sure even if credentials are stolen, attackers still cannot access the critical resources. Okay, this is how you can answer like an analyst for these questions. Third is privilege escalation. Privilege escalation is the same thing from a normal user you're trying to become an admin user, okay, or any other normal user also. So you're escalating, basically you're escalating your privileges, changing your privileges over here. Okay, so normal user account suddenly attempts to access a database that requires elevated privileges. Perfect. What indicators would suggest this is malicious? You can tell what will be the possible red flags over here. What indicators? Like user has no business need to access that database. That will be a red flag, first of all, right? What else? Multiple failed attempts, failed access attempts, followed by a success one. For the database, the access request passing the queries, nice, good one. Unusual queries, we can say, right? Yeah. Access from an unusual IP or device, red flag. Um, access request occur or occurs at odd hours. That is also there, like maybe midnight or on weekends. This way. So privilege escalation actually is a next step after credential compromise or malware infection. So legitimate users really change their behavior all of a sudden, right? So these can be possible red flags. Second is what action should SOC take immediately? Containment and investigation steps we are talking about. So if it seems like suspicious, we have to isolate or suspend the account. Right, until it is verified. Check for the logs, authentication logs, database logs, system logs, that can be checked. Look for any lateral movement. Has this account tried to access any other system also? That thing. Alert your IT or security team, other team, to prevent any further access. Right. and collect the forensic evidence. Correct. That is the most important thing. Forensic evidence, as in the timestamp, the commands which has been used, the and Gurusai, the commands which has been used maybe to change some things in the databases, the IPs, these things need to be checked for analysis. So see, the SOC's first priority is to stop the suspicious activity quickly while preserving any evidences for deeper investigations. Third is, how would you check if the account was compromised or if it's an insider threat? So what we do, we check for the login patterns into this. Login patterns. Maybe any new location, devices or IP address. So if there is new location, new device, new IP address, then obviously it's likely a compromised one, new compromise, not an insider threat. We look out for the behavior analysis. So is this action consistent with the user's role? If not, then it is suspicious. Right? We look out for the user confirmation. We contact the user directly. Did they perform this action? That has to be done with the accounts whenever we talk about that. Right? We check for the EDR, endpoint detection and response. We check that maybe any malware on the user system might be doing that. We look out for the access history also. If the user has begun gradually testing access to the resources, it could be an insider threat. Otherwise, likely a compromised one. So if log shows new device, new IP, new country, then account is compromised. If the log shows same user device and consistent IP, then it's an insider misuse. So you can answer these questions like that to the during the interview, that combining all these pointers. Like I would first look at logs and user context to see if the attempts align with their job role. Red flags would likely or would be your odd login times, unusual IPs, multiple failed login attempts, which suggests a compromise. It's a compromise. And immediate actions, what would be that it would be like to suspend the account, review the logs, check the endpoints to determine insider versus compromise. I would validate login metadata and contact the user. If it's from their usual device, insider misuse is likely to be there. If it's from the unusual IP or any infected endpoint, then its compromise is more possible over here. That will be answer for your third question. So you can combine these things in such a way. And we can do that. Correct. Good one. Shivaguru, this recordings won't be shared with you all. It might be uploaded in the LinkedIn and the YouTube. Phishing is there. I believe phishing, everyone knows that. Any malicious email which is being sent to you, right? I believe everyone might have experienced a phishing email, phishing credential theft. Not even credential theft, but phishing you might have experienced, right? Everyone. So phishing is nothing, it's just a social engineering attack, we call it. Social engineering attack. It's like art of manipulation, basically. So here attackers that trick people into revealing some sensitive information like passwords, credentials theft, right? Passwords, credit card details also, OTPs also, by pretending to be like a trusted entity, maybe like a bank or a company or a colleague like that. So how it works, the attacker, they send a fake email or SMS also, we call it smishing, or a website that looks real. So victim is now lured into clicking a link, a bait which we call it, or opening an attachment. Victim enters the details, thinking it was required or it's legitimate, but here all the credentials are sent to the attacker. So attacker steals your credentials and also maybe they install malwares into your system. So that's mentioned over here. Phishing is a type of cyber attack where attackers trick users into revealing sensitive information such as password, credit card numbers, or personal data by pretending to be a trusted entity. How to protect against phishing? Email filtering and spam protection. Username awareness training, MFA, and do not click on the suspicious links. Ready to that? We have question over here. Let's see that. credential harvesting. Employee receives an email over here, reports receiving an email saying your mailbox is almost full. Click here to upgrade storage. The link leads to a page mimicking Office 365 login. So what red flags in this email could help identify it as phishing? If the email, like phishing email, have this thing tendency, the tone is urgent, urgency, the scare tactic which they use. So your mailbox is almost full. It kind of creating urgency, like pushing the user to act quickly over there. Unusual sender, a spoofed address, right? Email might look like this: support at the rate MICROS, and this will be 0 FT. Looks like only, but it might be 0.com. So it might be missed in one go, right? Or any suspicious link can be there. They always put up a URL. So always hover your mouse pointer towards that URL to see where that URL is really taking you to. Okay, hovering shows URL that does not belong to maybe Microsoft. So if they have said clicked here, and when that click here button is there, there's a hyperlink attached to it. So when you put your mouse pointer above this here button, it will tell you where it is redirecting you to. Maybe it is redirecting you to something like this: mail hyphen upgrade, some like random website name which is not belonging to basically Microsoft, something like that. And also for phishing email, you have to know they have generic greeting as well at times. Generic greeting would be dear user, not specifyingly specifically for you. It won't specify your name. They write dear user because phishing is done in mass. So for many users, they have many email ID. They might have passed the same email. So instead of using the employee's real name, they will write dear user. And sometimes they also have poor grammar in or formatting. But with AI, this challenge is being removed. Second is, if the employee entered credentials, how would you investigate potential compromise? We check for the authentication log over here, like Azure AD, Office 365, SIM solution. We see if the stolen credentials were used. We look for unusual login attempts, obviously. Checking for the geolocation IP address, strain devices. We search for suspicious mailbox activity. This thing as well, like email forwarding rules might be set up into your account, right? Any revoke X, okay, yeah. Revoke access will be done over there. Correct. We can review the lateral movement in this as well because the accounts credentials has been passed. So we see if the attacker tried to log in into other services or elevate the privileges like that. And we check the threat intelligence feed, like was the phishing domain already reported by someone else. So main goal over here is to confirm if the attacker used the stolen credentials and contain it fast. Third is, what security controls can help reduce the success of such phishing campaigns. First is MFA. Okay. Second would be, as we discussed in the starting slide also, of phishing. Oh, sorry, email filtering, filtering the emails, looking for any suspicious activity. So email filtering and sandboxing, looking for suspicious links or attachments, right? Implementing safe links and safe attachments. Like only safe links and safe attachments will be sent, nothing apart from that. In Microsoft 365 it can be done. We look out for any, uh, we use 𝐸BA as I told you, user and entity behavior analytics to detect any unusual login. And yes, regular phishing training, awareness training should be there with simulations. Incident response playbook should be there for faster credential reset, and we should be having a strong reporting culture, right? So, like everyone should report if there is a phishing event. So it's like a defense in depth: user awareness plus technical controls plus quick instant response, right? So we can answer like for the entire question 1, 2, and 3. The red flags here are like urgency, suspicious links, and generic greetings. If the employee entered credentials, like I would immediately reset the account, check for O365 or Azure, any Active Directory which is being used, logs for any unusual logins, or forwarding rules, maybe set up in my email account, and monitor for any data movement. To prevent such attacks, I would recommend MFA, advanced email filtering, safe links, and continuous phishing awareness training as well. This business email compromise, finance officer receives an email from someone impersonating the CEO requesting an urgent wire transfer to a new vendor account. This happens a lot. You know, like transferring the money. Many banks have been part of this, doing millions of transfers. So here the first question is what possible indicators suggest this could be a phishing or a business email compromise attempt? Again, we look out since always look out for unusual urgency. Urgent wire transfer. It's a classic social engineering trick, right? We look out for if there is any new or any unverified account details. Any look out for the domain, whether it is a suspicious domain or not. Suspicious sender domain, like maybe like CEO at the rate xyzcompany.com, like that. Because this might be real. The fake one would be like this: CEO at the rate, as I told you, like things looks very similar. xyzz.com, maybe like that. This one. This is real and this is fake. Here, unusual. We look out for the time of request. So if there is any unusual time of request, that is also something to be looked out for. Possible indicator. Odd hours, outside business partner patterns can be indication of that. Right? And there is no standard workflow followed. Maybe like skipping any invoices, approval processes. If it's being ignored or being not followed, that's something suspicious. Right? So business email compromise, always they look out for the urgency, authority, and small domain changes that slip past a busy employee. Right? Here, the main thing, the best way to prevent this thing would be like to go with the dual verification before transferring. Always verify whether it is a requirement or not by other channels, by other medium of communication, basically. Second point, if the transfer request was processed, how would you respond and investigate? Absolutely, we'll be alerting the bank over here immediately to attempt the reversal of the transfer. So we'll contain it. I would contain it, alert the bank immediately to attempt the reversal of the transfer. That needs to be done as well. We investigate the logs. We check the email headers basically. That is important because in case if email is spoofed, headers can tell you the truth. Okay. We look out for the authentication logs. Okay. In O365 to confirm if CEO's account was spoofed or compromised. Right. We look for forwarding rules in any CEO emails, unusual login IPs, any MFA bypass attempts like that as well. We do the forensics of that. Because attackers, what do they do when they compromise your email ID and password? They set up a forwarding rule. Like they can add a forwarding email ID. Now, what will happen? Anyone who's trying to send an email to you, it will be directly transferred to the attacker. Forwarded into that. email ID. So always check if there is any forwarding email ID attached to your email account or not. As an individual also you can do and check in your Gmail account. User impact will also be there. We identify if other employees have received the similar emails or not. And we escalate. We notify the legal, compliance, and possibly the law enforcement regarding this financial fraud. Right. So here speed matters, guys. Wire transfers can be clawed back if reported fast. And what preventive technical and process-based controls would you recommend? In technical controls, we can say yes, email authentication, obviously, where we check for its email headers, especially for SPF. We cannot talk about that because it's gonna take time. But look out for these things: SPF, DKM, and DMARC to check whether it's a genuine email or not, whether it is a spoofed email or not. They are being displayed in your email headers. Okay, so they prevent the spoofed emails. We look out for the mailbox monitoring also. Alerts for any suspicious forwarding rules or anomalous logging activity. SIM rules can also be identified for that. Created like basically detect the CO, finance, urgent wire transfer patterns like that. Process control, as I told you, dual authentication, dual verification should always be there, or dual authorization would be better. Yeah. Any wire transfer must be approved by at least two executive, and it should be verified also via different communication channel. Dual verification or two-step verification, you can say. Or in other words, simple words, callback verification. Finance must verbally confirm with the requester also using known phone numbers like that. And awareness training obviously will always be there. Okay. Now if we talk about in terms of network security is also important, like security, like firewalls are there to provide network security. So network being secured over here is the practice of protecting a computer network and its data from unauthorized access, any misuse or the attack. So obviously monitoring is required. Threat needs to be detected in the network, instant response for that, and regular patching and updates as well. Okay, so that is network security. Couple of questions we'll discuss in terms of that as well. Okay, so network security, as I told you, here we try to protect the computer networks from any unauthorized access, any misuse, modification, or denial of service attack like that. So it here in simple words, it makes sure that only the right people and the trusted systems can use the network in a safe and secure way. So here we try to achieve that same thing: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So malwares, phishing, DDoS, man in the middle attack, all are the part of your network security. So for that we use firewalls, IDS, IPS, EDR, access controls, network segmentation, regular monitoring by SIM, all are part of your network security measures. So here in respect to that, we have the first question which says suspicious beaconing traffic. Right. Okay. That is often asked in SOC interviews because it ties together network monitoring, threat intelligence, and response. Let's see. During monitoring, you notice a workstation sending a small periodic outbound connection to an external IP at regular intervals, like a command and control channel. Perfect. So we notice a workstation sending small periodic outbound connection to an external IP at regular intervals. So first is, what could this behavior indicate? As I told you, command and control directly. It's a possible command and control, like someone is controlling a system. Beaconing. That means malware is calling to the attacker's server for instructions. So it could be a part of your botnet activity where your system is becoming a botnet, which can be controlled by the attacker. Or attacker might be trying to go with the data exfiltration. So it can be a signal for the data exfiltration preparation. Right? It could be a legitimate process also, but again, because any software update checks like that, they also perform the same thing. When you click on software update checks, it also kind of perform the same activity. So it requires validation, obviously. Okay. How would you confirm if it's a command and control beaconing? That's the second question, obviously. So here we do the network traffic analysis. Okay. We uses the Wireshark, PCAP, NetFlow to analyze the packet size, the frequency, the destination. Because command and control they often shows regular intervals. Yes, grow side. Command and control they often shows regular intervals and encrypted traffic to unusual IPs or domains. Okay. Threat intelligence lookup can also be there. Or gross or multi can be part of threat intelligence. We check basically for the IP or domain reputation against the threat intelligence feed. Like virus total, if you have heard about it, what platform, abuse IBDB, alien world, OTX, like that. We look out for the endpoints also, endpoint inspection. We look for suspicious process or processes making a connection, right? We check for the persistence mechanism. Maybe any scheduled task is there. Correlation with SIM. See if the machines are connecting to the same IP. We look for any failed authentication or privilege escalation which is linked to that host. So basically, you need to rule out this application, like benign application like Windows Update, and confirm using network plus endpoint plus Intel correlation. That is a command and control activity. What steps would you take to contain and investigate? Containment, obviously. We immediately isolate the workstation from the network or the device, because otherwise it will spread the malware to others also. We block the suspicious IP or domain at the firewall or the proxy part, right? And we stop the suspicious process and preserve forensic data. Then we investigate on that. Investigation, I will perform or we will perform the full endpoint scan. Okay, endpoint scan using an antivirus or EDR, right? Forensic triage can be done. Then we analyze those evidences or artifacts, we call them. Now we will, in this area, when we are talking about investigation, we call them artifacts. Any malicious binaries, PowerShell scripts, persistency, we are checking for that. We'll look out for lateral movement as well, as I told you. This always will be there. Login attempts, remote desktop connections, and we hunt for IOCs, indicator of compromise in the enterprises. And as a recommendation, we'll fix the exploited vulnerabilities, we'll patch the exploited vulnerabilities, we reset the credentials used on that machine, and we update the SIM detection rules to catch similar beaconing patterns in the future. Okay. Second is port scanning detected, like someone is scanning a network. So IDS alert shows an external IP attempting connections on multiple ports across several hosts in your system. What does this activity usually mean? This means someone is trying to scan, or it's like a reconnaissance phase of an attack, we can say. Reconnaissance phase of an attack, where the attacker is trying to gather more and more information. So attackers is scanning to identify if there is any open ports or services. If you guys have heard about Nmap, there's the kind of a thing activity, similar activity, right? So it could be a part of botnet or any automated scanner. GUSA, yes. So Nmap, as I told you, is a good example for that. Others are also there, master scan and everything. It's like think of a thief checking doors and windows before breaking in. How would you differentiate between a false positive and real threat? If here again the IP belongs to a known vulnerability scanner, if it belongs to the known vulnerability scanner, The scans are coming from trusted business partners because someone might be performing scanning. It could be part of false positive if someone is doing pen testing or scanning over there. Real threat indicators would be like unknown IP, okay, or from different location. So here scans are wide and noisy, like in huge amount it will be there. Many ports, hosts will be quickly scanned. A lot of logs you can see in the Wireshark. And yeah, here the scans are then followed by exploit attempts or a brute force like that. So we can check for the IP reputation in threat intelligence feed again. We can look out for the volume or the frequency of that scan. If it's repeated scan, then it's an attacker. Single scan may be research. And we correlate with other alerts like failed logins or any web exploit attempts like that. Question 3: what immediate defensive measures would you apply? Containment again would be the better option to go with, or the defense action. In containment, we can say we'll do what? We'll block or put the rate limiting, not letting to perform scan the source IP. As in at the firewall IPs, we can put that. Geo blocking can be done if traffic comes from regions with no business need, so we can block that geo location. So geo blocking. Update firewall rules in respect to that IP to ensure only required ports are open externally. Rest should be not displayed, right? And obviously continuous monitoring should be there. Attackers may switch to another IP also. So add detection rules, not just block them. Okay. So port scanning actually itself may not cause damage, but it's the first step, often the first step of a bigger attack. So responding quickly reduces the risk. So you can answer like port scanning usually indicates reconnaissance where an attacker is mapping open services. And to confirm if it's malicious, I would check threat intelligence on the source IP, see if scans are repeated, and look for follow-up exploit attempts. And as an immediate defense for the third question, we can say like I would block the scanning IP. I will tighten the firewall rules to reduce the exposed ports, and monitor for similar activity from other sources.